I think this is where I get emotional because it's, pretty incredible to see how many people show up in really hard times.
Hi there, this is Greg Coon, and this is episode 2 of Beating Cardiac Odds, our podcast that we're talking about cardiac arrest with different people. And I have the amazing Lauren Quint. She is one of our Boston Shock Squad members and is actually kind of the face for Boston because you want to tell us. Oh, you know what? Before we get into that, we're going to get all that. Tell me about you, your family, etc.
Hi, Greg. Happy to be here. A little bit about myself. I have three kids, 7, 4, and 1. And I have survived sudden cardiac arrest. I'm happy to be here telling everyone about it. Um, and I do fractional CFO work for part-time for my work now, and I've been in accounting my entire career, past 15-ish years. Live outside of Boston, about 30 minutes metro west of the city. Excited to be here and excited to be part of the Boston Shock Squad supporting Cardiac Crusade.
It is crazy. We had to come up with a name, and I did play around with AI and give me different names of what we could call ourselves, and there was Boston Shock Squad, and I was like, okay, that's what we're calling ourselves. And it's just I like the how it flows, and also when we go to the next city, it's because Boston is number 2. We did Buffalo before, now we did Boston, but it's going to be the Chicago Shock Squad, or whatever, whoever's next. Who wants to be next? By the way, reach out to me. Okay. What's funny? So I'm on the creative side. I own a television and video production company. I'm really good at doing interviews. These are like 5 things I'm good at in life. But I always joke around. I'm the last person you want to do your taxes and your accounting because I'd screw that up like that. Thank God there's people like you that will save my butt, because I've had people like you save my butt before. It was like, my CPA was like, what were you doing? I'm like, I'm sorry. Okay, so tell me what you like to do for fun, your family likes to do for fun activities, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so we like to be outside a lot of the time. We'll go hiking. We went up to Mount Washington earlier this summer. We like to be outdoors, just experiencing nature and out and about. Kids are in sports, so we get dragged to soccer games, sit on the sidelines. But really, it's most of our time has been dedicated to being with our family unit. Around, the dinner table, trying to get around the dinner table 5 times, 6 times a week if we can, all together, because that's what's important in life for sure.
So what does a typical day look like for you? I
So
know
no day is the
typical. Did I
same.
do the air quotes in there?
Yeah. Since my event, it's actually forced me to reprioritize a lot of different things, for the better, for sure. I feel like family was always first, but then work was a quick second, where since my event, I have shifted around and tried to prioritize volunteer work over work experience. I have a consulting practice that is a lot more flexible than my work ever was before. So I've been lucky that I can do drop off and pick up with my kids. Um, two of the oldest are in school and at pre-K. So I drop off in the morning. My youngest, who's 1, is at home with me every day. And so it's kind of a juggle of, are you awake to go pick up the kids, drop them off? Um, and then I shift my hours for my consulting practice where I can during the day. I will log into work when both boys are down for nap in the afternoon. Um, and then I'll be outside playing in our garden with them or running around the house chasing my 4-year-old. So it shifts day to day, but it's pretty standard where I drop the kids off or I drop the two oldest off. My youngest is with me during the day, throughout the day. I'm playing with him. I'm logging into work when he's sleeping. And then I'm going to pick up the kids at school and spend the afternoon with my 4-year-old. And then my daughter gets off the bus and we all get to hang out outside or do something inside if it's raining. Um, then my husband works from home in the seat that I'm in. And he usually logs off around 5, and then we'll do family dinner time around 5:30, and then normal bedtime bath, all that fun jazz, sometimes chaos, most of the time chaos. And then after they're asleep, that's when I'll focus on other volunteer work or I'll log more hours for my consulting business. And it ebbs and flows. Like sometimes school's off, so my only focus that day is the kids. Um, Sometimes we'll have, like over the summer, we had a babysitter that would come in and she would watch the 1-year-old while I could, shift my focus to work as well. So it ebbs and flows, but my priority has luckily been the family first, and I feel very lucky that I get to do that.
And I was just
And
going
then
to say that you're very lucky. It seems, you've created, you and your husband have created this atmosphere or schedule or environment that allows you to do a lot of the things that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. I mean, think
Absolutely. And I mean, during the day too, when I don't have a lot that needs to be done for my consulting practice, I can focus on things that I like to do too, where I'll go exercise, go out for a run with my youngest Hap, and it's just nice to have that flexibility. And we've worked really hard to get to the point where we have that. So I do feel very grateful for that for sure.
many, many, many things. The list is long of the things to be grateful about.
Mm.
Okay, so tell me about what is your general. Tell me as much as you want. General health during leading up to your event, to your sudden cardiac arrest event.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I always viewed myself as a pretty healthy individual. I played field hockey in college. I wouldn't make effort to exercise consistently, but I was very active with the kids. Like I said, we like to be outside. We'd go hiking. We do all different things around the house and, running around or biking, running to try to keep up with the kids biking, different things like that. But I never had any health issues. I have a heart murmur that my pediatric doctor discovered when I was trying out for field hockey in high school. But no restrictions at that point in time. It was something that they just looked at every couple of years to monitor, and it didn't cause me any issues or I had no, exercise restrictions based off that.
Lauren, okay, give me the details of what happened on the day you had your cardiac arrest.
So I felt fine all morning. I had my 6-week postpartum checkup appointment, and my son was with me that morning. He was 6 weeks old at the time, and we drove to my appointment. I felt fine, and I got out of the car. I had him in his car seat, and we went over to the sidewalk, and I started to feel really dizzy. I put his car seat down, and that's when I collapsed and went into cardiac arrest.
So, assuming that's the last thing you remember,
Yes. Yep.
yeah. So who are the people that came, who saw you fall and came to your aid?
So there are a handful of different people. There was a couple behind me that saw me fall, and they ran over to me. He works at a nursing home, so new CPR, and she ran inside to call 911. When she went inside, there was also former nurse that was standing right by the door, who was there with her son for his 6-month appointment. She ran outside to help, and she just started telling everyone to start CPR on me. And so she actually started CPR on me, but she was so emotional in the moment that the other man that came to me first, he took over CPR from her. And then where I happened to fall was right outside my OB's office window, and he saw people coming, he saw people surrounding me. And so he ran out to help, and he got to me and took over CPR from the man that was doing it. And at that point, I think it was a couple of minutes before the medics got there. And
So you said your OB ran in there and started doing CPR. Did he recognize who you were?
no, he did not. He said that he didn't know who I was until they pulled out my license when I was getting um, into the ambulance, because he said I just didn't look like myself.
Wow. So they started CPR on the sidewalk. Do you have any idea how long it took before the ambulance got there?
It was around 5 minutes before the ambulance got there.
So there was a decent amount of time. 5 minutes is actually pretty quick in some parts of a city, um, but 5 minutes is still 5 minutes. Did it was a AED used, or was there an AED that was brought out to you?
Yeah, so at the time that the ambulance pulled in, I guess someone had run into the building to get the AED that they had in the medical facility, but the ambulance medics got to me quicker than the person coming out with it. And they ended up using the AED on me and shocked me once, and my heart went back into a normal rhythm. And I don't know, I guess that would have happened first. And then they had to put an IV into my leg to try to get me fluids, because they couldn't get it into my arm. And that's when I came to. And I remember my doctor being there talking to me, another woman I heard, and my first thought, or one of my second thoughts was, where's my baby? Because last I remembered was putting him down on the sidewalk.
So who took care of your baby?
So my OB took care of him along with the crisis team at the medical facility. His pediatrician is actually in the same building as where my appointment was, so he brought him up to my pediatrician's office until my husband could get there, from he was driving from work.
So they did give you a shock on the sidewalk, as or close to when the ambulance arrived,
Yes.
or
Yep. Well, the medics out of the
from the
ambulance
ambulance
gave
gave
me
you
the
the shock
shock
right
with
there while you.
yep, with their AED. Yep.
Gotcha. All right. So your heart restarted after one shock, which is unbelievable, which is wonderful. And then you came to, and what was your first? You said your first thought, or your second thought rather, was, where's your baby? And tell me, how soon before you realized what happened?
I didn't know, I can't even remember at what point in time they told me it was cardiac arrest. I think it was once I got to the ER at Beth Israel that they said that's what they thought it was, but at that point in time I had other things that were happening that they were trying to figure out, why I still had internal bleeding. And so I ended up going into an induced coma because they needed to ensure that everything else was stable. And the only way that they could do that was to induce a coma. At that point in time, thankfully, my husband had got to me in the ER, because we were able to see each other before I went into the induced coma, which was like, we talk about it to this day, like a world of change to know that he could see me okay before I was in that state. And I could talk to him and see him, and we made that decision together.
So how long were you?
And
So
then
so you were how? Oh, I don't know what the right term is. How with it were you when you now come to? You got the shock. Your heart's going. You're able to interact. You're
mhm.
still trying to figure out kind of what happened. How long was that time before you and your husband decided, okay, this is what we need to do? From the direction from the doctors, of course.
Yeah, it was probably from the time I woke up going into the ambulance to the time I went into the coma was probably an hour and a half. Because it took my husband 40 minutes to drive from the doctor's office where I was, and he made sure our son was okay. And then he left him there so my parents could get him. Um, and he came to me, and that was like a 40-minute ride. Um,
Yeah, mine when
and
I was
I was
driving to the
running,
hospital.
they were just running me through tests in the hospital.
Yeah, when I
But
was
I had like no concept of time. It was like, like my body just went into fight or flight, you know?
when I was driving to the hospital after my wife Julie had her sudden cardiac arrest. It was short. I mean, it was like I'd say 5, 6, 7 minutes. But oh my God, did time warp? And I
Probably
remember
felt like
listening to
days.
a Led Zeppelin song on the radio, and I'm like, that's the most unimportant thing, this song, and that I don't know why that sticks with me, but yeah, it was a warp of time, and so the doctor said we need to put you in a coma, and talking to your husband about that decision, and obviously you did that. So tell me, then what happened after that?
So after the ICU and the coma, I woke up probably about 12 hours later. Um, and at that point, they had stabilized my lungs, um, and my breathing, but I was still on oxygen because the threat was the CPR had broken the ribs, which had caused like fluid in my lungs. Um, and so they needed to stabilize my breathing. That happened. So from there, it was all positive news after that. It felt like things were just constantly going in the right direction after I woke up from the coma. I was on a breathing tube that got taken out. Then I got off the oxygen. Um, and that all happened within 24 hours. But then I got sent to the cardiac floor at BI for them to monitor me to figure out what they needed to, well, they were trying to figure out the why behind it, before they, let me leave the hospital pretty much. Um,
So I'm going to ask, so why, the obvious question is, why did you go into sudden cardiac arrest? But I do want a little side comment. So when they were doing chest compressions, they broke your ribs, which is actually a good thing. And I guess the process of breaking the ribs, they punctured part of your lung.
I don't think they punctured the lung, but they like potentially bruised it. I don't know what the actual like medical threat is, but they did something to my lungs that compensated my breathing.
Got it.
And it caused internal bleeding that they couldn't figure out where it was coming from. And I think it was coming from my lungs.
So yeah, and this is a conversation not for this interview, but I did CPR on a person who had sudden cardiac arrest, and I remember distinctly feeling and hearing the ribs break when I
Ribs.
was doing compressions on him. Yeah, it was, and
That's crazy.
crazy is right, and it was one of those deals where, okay, I know I'm doing it the right way, and I'm making,
Because you're doing it hard
I'm
enough.
doing it hard enough. And there's video of me doing CPR, and I've got my whole body is just, you could feel. You know what? Okay, I'm gonna a little side comment on this one. Um, I could feel the recoil. I could, okay, right? So when you squeeze something and then you open it up again, you could feel, that happening. I could feel the recoil which is really what makes the blood continue
Wow.
circulating through the body during CPR.
Right.
So,
So you were giving good CPR then. Like
I've
that's like
taken the
technical
class twice,
CPR.
you know.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that, since Julie had her sudden cardiac arrest, I also re I not replayed, I guess played in my mind, what would I do if I came across it? Not thinking it ever happened, and then it happens. And when it happened to this guy on the hockey rink on the ice, it was surreal. I just jumped in. I didn't think. I wasn't processing anything. I just knew exactly what to do in that moment, and my mind was my brain. My focus is just all right there. Okay, that's a different story. I'm
But I
glad they
think,
broke your rib.
Greg, I do think that's important though, because I think one of the thoughts that I had after mine too was how do I help in that scenario, right? Like, how do I be the person that's going to run to someone that needs help? Like, so many people ran to me. And that's where I feel like Cardiac Crusade is so powerful because we're empowering any individual to help save a life just by knowing where an AED is. And that's when I like started looking at volunteer work from a perspective of gratefulness and like I want to help, but how do I do that? And to me, the two streams that I saw work so successfully in my instance were CPR and AEDs. So it's like if I focus on AEDs, I know I'm helping save lives, and that is so important.
And there's a whole chain of people. Yes, I did the compressions, but someone else brought the AED. Someone
Mm,
else called 911 before I got there. And so there's a chain of events and chain of people doing something. For your sudden cardiac arrest, for Julie, my wife's her sudden cardiac, it was a chain of events that happened.
right.
And so you need that if you can, and even with Cardiac Crusade, with our mission to map AEDs, you can map an AED, and 18 months later, someone is going to be saved because you mapped it, and now
Mm,
someone knows where they are, and you may not even know you did something that saved a life.
right.
You know,
Yeah, it just keeps compounding the
it.
impact on the
Good word
potential
for
to
it.
save a life.
Yeah. Yep. 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 Okay. So you come out of the coma.
Yeah, and then I was in the hospital for a week. They were trying to figure out the why.
I'm sorry. That
Um,
was my next question. What is? Did they ever figure out the why?
so they can't be 100% sure as to why, but the theory is that with my heart murmur and my heart going into an abnormal rhythm happening at the same time, it caused my heart to stop. So the heart murmur is what incorrectly flows the blood in and out of my heart. And then obviously the abnormal heartbeat is the electrical issue of my heart. And they think that those two things like happened incorrectly at the perfect or imperfect time, however you want to look at it, to cause my heart to stop.
Got it. Do you have an ICD?
I do. So one of the um, decisions we made before I left the hospital was how do we ensure this doesn't happen going forward? And so I ended up with an ICD before I even left the hospital.
Right.
Um, and so that was, my insurance policy. If my heart ever stops again, I get a shock.
All right. So you want to
Um,
describe what an ICD is for those who don't?
an implanted cardiac device and defibrillator, and it monitors my heart rhythm constantly. So I have the device implanted in my body.
Is it up
On
here?
It's on my left side.
Oh,
Yeah, it's an S-ICD. And so most of them are here. Mine's like under here. Um, and those are like the two different options that you can get. Since I'm young and I'm going to have it longer term, this option is less likely to cause other internal infection issues longer term. So I went with the S-ICD. It monitors my heart daily. it sends data to my doctor weekly. So I have a little heart button next to my bed that flashes every Tuesday morning, and I hit it, and it sends all the data from the week to my doctor for them to review. And so basically, it monitors if there's any abnormal heartbeats, the period of time that that abnormal heartbeat exists for. If it goes over a certain set of specific parameters, it will actually the ICD to shock me, and then put my heart back into a normal rhythm.
And you have not been
And
reshocked, or it has not gone off.
luckily to date, I've not been shocked. No.
Yeah, Julie has an ICD and hers has not gone off, and frankly, we don't anticipate hers just because of her situation and her circumstance. But again, that's for another one, not this. This is all about you.
How long has she had hers?
So 2018, I mean, she didn't leave the hospital until she had one. And
Mm.
then once I figured out what or understood what an ICD is, I'm like, I want one, you know? That you and Julie and whoever else has an ICD, you've got the best safety net there can be.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm by myself in the house and I have a cardiac arrest, that's it. You know, with her and you, it's like, I'm back.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, no, it's amazing technology. All right. So, recovery, you get home. What's your now? Well, let me ask, did you understand the difference between a cardiac arrest and a heart attack before all this happened?
I did not.
See,
No.
we
I
didn't
learned a
either.
lot about hearts in the hospital.
Because we got everyone, all our friend group, and we would have been the same thing. Oh, Julie had a heart attack. And then it's like, we finally figured it out, like you said, you know, a few days later after being in the hospital. No, it was not a heart attack. There is no blockage. Julie's in great shape, and, you know, you are too. I have no idea how much blockage you may or may not have in your arteries, but Julie had zero.
Right,
It's
same.
electrical. It's an electrical system. And so, yeah, and you've got to do something totally different if someone drops from a cardiac arrest than from a heart attack. Yeah, we all learned a lot. So, what was your daily life like once you get back home and you walk in your front door and you're like, oh, tell me about that.
So it was this weird combination of like a lot of fear, that I didn't want that to happen again, with so much gratefulness that I get to hug my kids and see my kids every day and be with my husband. Um, and then also like, uh, how do I ensure that I'm resting to get to be the healthiest version of myself to show up for my family? Um, and so that was a lot in the beginning, of just trying to adapt to the new norm of this is life. And I didn't want to live in this state of fear of, am I going to drop dead when I have this amazing life and family that I want to show up for? And so we talked a little bit about this before, but I did a lot of mental health work to ensure that I could show up the best I can, without having a ton of anxiety that was driving my life. Um, and so I was part of a cardiac rehab program, that I would highly suggest to anyone that has heart health problems, because what it really does is it just builds confidence around what you can and cannot do going forward. So they monitor you while you're exercising to gain confidence exercising. Um, I mean, it's tailored to each individual depending on what their heart health needs are. But it was a great program, and it was 12 weeks long that I, got to go on a treadmill and run and feel confident doing that. Um, and them, showing me that there was nothing wrong with my heart while I was doing that. So that was a important program to my recovery.
How did you? So,
And
one of the common things. Sorry to interrupt. But one of the common things, we're part of a big Zoom group, and I've talked to others, and I've met a lot of other survivors. Is you survive your cardiac arrest, great job, thumbs up, success, part of the 10% survival club. Scoot you out the door, and you're going to go home, and crickets.
Mhm.
I love it that someone either reached out to you, or a doctor said, "Hey, here's a program. You should go see a counselor." I mean, almost everyone who leaves the hospital, they don't have any tools on how to deal with
Mhm.
this. So tell me
Yeah.
about a little bit more on that.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was I advocated for myself. Like, I feel like I'm a pretty self-aware person that I knew what I was feeling wasn't something I ever felt before. And a lot of that was just anxiety, and I didn't know what it was or how to deal with it. And I'm also a solution-based person. So I wanted to find a solution for that. And through my family network, someone who had a heart attack mentioned cardiac rehab and suggested that I should look into it. And I also had to advocate for myself there because a lot of sudden cardiac arrest patients don't actually get approval for cardiac rehab because
Hmm.
a lot of cardiac rehab is trying to fix heart health, where sudden cardiac arrest, we talked about, is an electrical issue that's a lot of it is unpredictable. So a lot of insurances don't actually cover cardiac rehab because you're not really solving for anything other than building confidence and structured exercise and those types of things.
Wait, but
Um,
that's just mental health, though. You would think.
it it is, but I think there's also um, a lack of access to behavioral mental health for a lot of people too.
Well, I think it's amazing and wonderful, and I didn't know that you had that opportunity because most don't. So great, this that's why you just example A on example one on why you should advocate for yourself. I mean, that's just awesome. Okay, next thing I've got. Let's talk about how your family and friends reacted.
Hmm, good question.
What kind of support did
Um,
they provide? Did you get the meals, daily meals train thing, and
yeah, so incredible network of support from family, from friends. People showed up to just hang out with our kids so I could go take a nap when I wasn't feeling good, in my recovery. And I think this is where I get emotional because it's, pretty incredible to see how many people show up in really hard times.
so it was a real we've used in our neighborhood and our group of friends meal trains, so, meal train, and I think it's meal train dot as an app or as a website or something that kind of coordinates who's going to bring a meal, and it's a true train of friends.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of my family isn't close. So we had people driving, at the drop of a hat, like 2 hours to come help, which is pretty incredible. And I mean, it was just constant support for a number of months and people checking in and just ensuring that we had what we needed to get through recovery and make sure that the kids were taken care of. And I mean, even our daughter's school was phenomenal as supporting us as well.
How did because with my in my situation with Julie and her cardiac arrest, she's in the hospital for a week, um, and when news, I would someone new in our immediate family, and then they would say something, and it's like we've got our school friends, our neighborhood friends, our hockey family friends, and we've got these her sorority alum, um,
Yeah, I know. It's just
it blew
incredible.
up. It's incredible, and I got to a point where, Julie's doing all her this is like within 2 hours or 3 hours, an hour to the first few hours, of her being in the hospital, and we're still trying to figure out what's going on. And people are, my phone is blowing up, and I'm
Mm.
the point person. And then it got to a point where I can't then I was like, copy paste the answer from the, then a whole other group of people, because they're not going to reach out to Julie because she's occupied doing her stuff. It's just me. And so I asked Julie, I was like, there are so many people that care.
Mm.
Do you mind if I just have a central point where I post on a daily basis? And Facebook was the obvious one. Not that
Yeah.
I want to, hey, social media, this. That was the last thing I wanted to do. Even though we're very open book about us, whatever, but it was really a way of disseminating information all at the
Mm.
same time, instantly to everyone.
Yeah.
And I would do that on a daily basis. And I think there was like by day 3 or something, I think I missed a day. My phone, Greg, what's going on? Where's the update today? It better be good news.
Yeah, I
So
feel like it was a full-time job for my husband just to respond to people.
it was an avalanche of people helping, and we had the tree, the meal train going. Okay, so how have your kids been dealing with this?
Great question. So they're young enough that they didn't fully understand what was going on. And when I was saying that, my daughter's school was phenomenal. I actually had an open line of communication. She was in kindergarten at the time, my oldest. And I remembered texting her teacher, being like, how do I explain this to her in a adaptable way, or digestible way before they came and saw me in the hospital? Because this was probably like 3 days after that they came in and saw me because we wanted to make sure that I looked okay for them to see me too. Um, and she said, just keep it simple. Um, I have a boo-boo on my heart. You can't see it. It's inside my body, and I can't leave until I come up with a group plan with the doctors to get me home safely. And it was so simple and easy and digestible for my kids that when they saw me, at that point I looked like myself. I had like one IV in my arm. And we had so much family around that was distracting them from me not being home that helped a lot too. But after the fact, so they absorbed it and understood I was in the hospital, but didn't really understand the why other than I had a heart boo-boo. And when I came home, they knew that I couldn't pick them up until my ICD was healed. We call it my jetpack now. I tell them that makes me go
I like that.
faster.
I like that.
Um, and occasionally my kids will ask me like, "Oh, mom, is that your jetpack side?" Like if they're cuddling up next to me. But then so the news got a hold of my story and they came to do an interview and the kids were awake for that. And I think them hearing me re-encounter the day, kind of hit home some of the facts about it. Um, we went to something and someone said, like another kid who heard the story through a parent said something to my daughter about me almost dying. And so it's like little things like that where I think my oldest definitely understood how severe it was in the moment. But the younger ones didn't really understand. They just know that well, my 4-year-old knows I have a jetpack and he thinks it makes me go faster.
But
But
for
I think overall, like because they were surrounded by friends and family so much in the moment that they felt safe and secure and they were able to see me and know that I was okay, that they adapted really well to it. Sometimes my daughter has like separation issues when I go to leave because I think she's like, when is she going to come back or is she going to come back sometime? So, just reminding them when I'm going to a doctor's appointment, like I'm okay and I will be home, is important. because I think maybe underlying subconsciously there's some fear there.
And our situations were somewhat similar in the sense that you had your cardiac arrest, Julie had hers, and you were revived within a very, very short amount of time. Now,
Hmm.
you did have the coma, but you said an hour, right?
Hmm.
So it's not like you were in a coma and your body was cooled to a colder temperature to help heat, that whole process, which happens to a lot of sudden cardiac arrest survivors. That, and they're in the coma for 2, 3, 4+ days with the
Yeah.
tubes and all the whole medical thing. That
Yeah.
if you've got young kids, boy, you don't want to see your mommy like that.
Right.
And so, with Julie, she had nothing. She was sitting up in the emergency room, saying,
Yeah.
"I'm sorry. I thought she shot at that time. She thought she just fainted." And
That's
me too,
crazy.
and then the reality started, sinking in. Okay, your husband. Tell me how he's
Mm.
been.
Yeah, he is such a, I mean, he's my rock throughout all this. He is just like the most steady person I know. It definitely rocked him to his core. He said that, so he had to drive from his work to the medical facility that I had my cardiac arrest because our son was there, and that was a 40-minute drive. And then he had to drive from there after he knew my son was okay from the medical facility to the hospital, and that was another 40-minute drive. And he said that his thoughts went dark for like probably 10 seconds. And he's like, nope, she's going to be okay. I can't go there. Um, but he said it was like the longest ride of his entire life. And then, like I mentioned to you, it was so nice that we were able to see each other before I went into the coma. Um, because then at that point, he knew I was talking and understood and could communicate. Um,
And
so
understood what they were going to do in that hour of you being in a coma for an hour.
I was in the coma for 12
Oh,
hours.
12 hours. I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
apologize. I thought it.
that's okay. No, it was like an hour of time from when I went down to when I went into the coma. And then I was
That's what
in
it
the
was.
coma. Yeah. And then I was
Okay.
in the coma for 12 hours.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Um, and the weird thing about them inducing the comas, I said to them before they put me into the coma, I was like, how long is it gonna be till I wake up? And they're like, well, we can't predict that. And I was like, okay, that's uneasy. And so I remember saying to them before they put me into the coma, I said to everyone in the room, I was like, okay, I will see everyone tomorrow morning. And
Oh, nice.
it's kind of just like my positive mentality of like, okay, I'm gonna get out of this as quickly as I can. Um,
So, just
but
a
I
curious.
mean, that in itself was so helpful for my husband. He still, like, we talked afterwards, we talked about like what his day was like, what my experience was like. And that was really, really helpful because then I got to see it from his vanishing point too, of all of his very hard moments that day, before he got to me, because he also like didn't even know what had happened to me on his first 40-minute ride.
Sure.
Um, and so like I said, he's my rock, and he's, showed up pretty phenomenally for the kids when I was in the hospital and for all of our family. Like he, similar to you, Greg, like it was probably very, very scary in that moment. And, you're just constantly updating people and trying to support everyone around you too. So it's not an easy job for sure.
For sure. I look forward to meeting them. Um,
It's excited to meet
how's
you
this
too.
experience changed your perspective on life?
Hmm. I love that question. I think I operate a lot slower than I used to in a good way. Um, I used to just like rush through everything. And now I appreciate like little moments with my kids.
Like what?
Um, I don't know, like going out to our garden every morning and seeing my kids like smell a flower, but then like rip it off the stem, whatever. Uh, and just like little things in life that I felt like I was moving too fast to even, appreciate. Um, I value relationships so much more, of just, telling people how I feel in the moment. I don't care about showing emotion
Me, me,
because that means I'm
me
living and
too.
breathing. And I think one of the biggest changes for me was, um, we talked about my flexible work and my day to day and making room for family. I made more time in my day for family because that's what I wanted to do. Um, Whereas I used to, work a lot of hours.
Yeah.
But it's just full of gratitude, and I have changed my work focus too to also look into volunteering to want to help people because so many people helped me in that moment that didn't need to and didn't have to. Um, and so I try to take some of that on of how do I do that for others as people did for me.
Yeah. I was going to go someplace, but I won't. It's okay. Um, because I think about the people that jumped into action.
Hmm. Yeah, their life is forever changed too, right?
Totally.
So,
Right.
and I struggled with a lot after the fact of like, how do I actually thank them?
I think
Like that.
you can't. And I've done it. I now have experience on both sides. I am I am so thankful for the people who stood up and did something, but then I did the same thing for another
I did
person who
it.
died of cardiac arrest. So I've seen both sides of it, and I don't see myself as a hero. I just don't. But for my wife's rescuers, I do.
Hmm.
I
And I
don't know.
think that's the biggest thing, right? Is like, how do I do work that is mission driven to know that I am empowering people to help other people? Like, I
Right.
think that's so important.
Yeah. It is. It is. And this is, that's this is one of the things I really love about Cardiac Crusade is it can't be just me or
Hmm.
me and Julie. The only way our mission works is if we have an army of people that all, excuse the expression, that give a shit. You know,
Right.
that they want to help something, they want to do something, they want to take the bull by the horns. With Tyler and the other, Shock Squad, Danielle. It's y'all care so much about wanting to
Hmm.
do the right thing and help other people, and there's no way I, you know, I know I started this crazy thing, but you know, um, but it's
But
not me.
it's an incredible idea that so many people want to help execute that you thought of. Like that's incredible in itself. And to know that your idea is blossoming into different cities is so, so cool.
That chokes me up. It was a silly idea.
But it's a
I'll say,
good one. It's silly, but it's
it is.
good.
It's got us here today. We wouldn't have this conversation if I had that crazy idea. So, what you're talking about is now that I know the difference between cardiac arrest and a heart attack, and the importance of knowing where the AED is, the closest AED is. Why is it that you can say, "Hey Google, hey Siri, where's the closest Starbucks," but not an AED?
Mm,
That started this whole craziness, and so when it's just turned into this snowball thing, you know. And Buffalo and Western New York was an amazing experience, and I learned so much. And then I took everything that we learned in Buffalo, and then we're doing it in Boston. But it's very different. But it's different, but it is bigger than what we had in Buffalo. But then in Chicago or wherever we go next, it's going to be even more so, you know.
yeah.
And I'm still learning. I've never run a charity before. I don't know how to do this. It's, I'm just figuring this out. I've made more mistakes, but you just have to just jump in there and do it. And so knowing that you'll make a mistake and it's not. All right. Okay. Husband, you're rock. I love it. Can't wait to meet him. And so, what are some of your um, thoughts on what you would tell other people about sudden cardiac arrest?
Hmm. What would I tell other people about that?
What do you want them to understand about sudden cardiac arrest? And this could be physical, it could be
Yeah, I
mental.
think it's, I think the, like I said, the two things that I thought about after the fact that I would love for people to understand is the power behind knowing CPR and knowing where the closest AED is. Because those are the two things that saved my life. And I think that if more people are empowered to have that knowledge, it's only going to help them if they're in a crisis situation. And whether that be understanding how to give CPR to a kid that's in an athletic situation that has cardiac arrest, or um, an adult on an ice rink that has an issue. I think there's just so much opportunity to learn and to be prepared if you're thrown into a really hard situation like that.
That reminds me. So I did an interview with all of Julie's heroes, is what she calls them. We call them. The first responders, the twin girls who were, I think they were in seventh grade, eighth grade, ninth. No, ninth. No, they're in 10th grade. So they're the one. These twin girls saw Julie collapse, and they started the ball to get the coach, get the AED. They ran to get the AED. They put the AED together, along with the athletic trainer. I mean, it was a team effort. It was like a NASCAR, thing happening on the,
Yeah.
going into the pit area. Um, but I also did an interview with Brandon Guest. So Brandon Guest is the first paramedic on the scene, and I interviewed him, and he said the number of times that he shows up to a call and there's a lifeless body laying on the pavement and there's a dozen people standing around looking and they're
Hmm.
not frickin' doing anything.
Hmm.
I can't imagine not trying something,
Hmm.
anything, you know? And maybe it's because, I just know what to do now. Maybe, yeah, if this would have happened before Julie's cardiac arrest, would I have known what to do? I don't know.
Yeah.
Since I do,
The same. Yeah.
you know? So it's exactly what you said is learning CPR. I mean, there was, the TV show The Office with,
Yes.
okay, so there's a scene and they were having fun with it. It's like, learn at the office, we're going to learn CPR day is today, and so they got the mannequin out there and he's, pounding it down like this, doing CPR the wrong way. They're just having fun with it. But one of the things they said is that you've got to, the Bee Gees song "Staying Alive." You've got to, do the beat. Now, I don't think they did it like this, but there was a guy who watched the show, never CPR trained, but he remembered that scene.
Hmm.
There's a someone had a cardiac arrest in by him or whatever, and he was like, "Staying alive." He just did CPR and saved him.
Yeah. It's
So
incredible.
it's just doing something, learning
Hmm.
CPR, because that will save a life. And also
Right.
the next part of what Cardiac Crusade is all about is getting the AED, because chest compressions all you're doing is you're buying minutes. You're
Hmm.
not restarting the heart. I'm sure there's a freak situation where it might sometime, but essentially you're doing CPR to extend the life so that you can get a shock from an AED to bring the heart back to beating the right way. So, yeah, I get emotional sometimes. Um, what advice would you give to someone who is currently a caregiver for a cardiac arrest survivor?
Um, have open communication. I think that that's one of the things that is so helpful in my husband and my relationship is in those early days when he was struggling through some of the moments, he would just communicate that to me, and same with me. And I think that helps everyone get through it. I think, I mean, it probably depends on personalities too. Some people don't like to not talk about things.
Hmm.
But I think that we're both pretty open and honest with each other about where we stand. And I think if a caregiver can communicate honestly on, um, what they can do to help or how they can support someone that is going through recovery, then I think that that's the best that they can do and show up the best they can.
Awesome. Yes, and Julie are the same way. We're very, I wear my emotions on my sleeve, obviously. So I can't imagine not. I can't imagine trying to
Yeah.
hold it in.
I mean,
But that's my personality and yours.
yeah. What was helpful for you, as a caregiver?
I'm always a positive. I look at it from a positive perspective. That um, she survived it, and I got to tell you, one of the things that, you know, we'll, you know, I'm very active in a monthly. There's a monthly Zoom call with survivors and co-survivors, and they look at co-survivors just as almost as an equal to the survivors, which I love.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've learned is that I just let it all out. And Julie's situation is similar to yours. Yes, you and Julie are part of the 10% Survival Club, but oh my God, the stories of some of the survivors and the issues and situations that they have to deal with. Whether it's cognitive issues. The guy
Hmm.
I don't want to go into details because he wants to keep things private, but he's still trying to walk months later. There's a lot of memory issues, and and your your outcome and Julie's outcome are perfect. I don't want to say everything is perfect, but whatever that means, whatever that word actually
Yeah.
means, but you know
Best
what I mean.
case.
So I listen to stories, and then, okay, it's Greg Coon. Tell me your story, and I've got some survival situation guilt, I think is maybe a way to say it,
Mm.
because we're not dealing with some of the things that others are. But that's just the hand that we were given. That's my story.
Yeah.
I can't change our story is our story. It is what it is. I'm so thankful and grateful, but I do have a good amount of uh, I don't know, survivor's guilt, even though we're all survivors. A very good result in her outcome, and I think you and Julie are in the same boat in many ways.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think to that point, the caregivers also need support, right? It's not just taking care of the person that had sudden cardiac arrest. It's
which
also
is which
ensuring
is
that
where I
they
was going.
have mental
But
support that they
yep,
need, right?
which is where I was going with that.
Yeah.
It's does Greg Coon as the co-survivor? Does your husband as a co-survivor? Does he need you know therapy? Does he have PTSD? The
Right.
big, you know what though? Here's the other big thing is we did not do CPR on our spouse who had the cardiac arrest. Your
Yeah, that's
husband did
another.
not do CPR on you. I did
Right.
not do CPR on Julie. And a huge number of the co-survivors are the ones who did the compressions and
Right.
broke their spouse's ribs. So that's, talk about PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, yeah, highly recommend help if you need it, for sure.
Agreed.
Okay, looking ahead, what are you most excited about life?
Mm. Watching my kids grow up. Um, I mean, every age is so fun, but I think it's so cool to see them get older and, build on their personality. And I think that's probably the most exciting for me is knowing that I'm gonna get to watch my kids grow old and hopefully see their grandkids someday.
Yeah.
Or see my grandkids someday. Not their grandkids. Maybe
Maybe
their
there's, hey,
grandkids,
that's a
but
good goal though. That's a really good goal. And our daughter's engaged to be married. She's going to be married next summer, and so
oh, congrats.
yeah. So that's talk about those the graduation, the watching them play in the garden, picking the petals out the flowers, all those little moments, but the big moments also, and
Yeah.
that yeah, I'd be doing that by myself. F me, damn. Okay. Last question. Finally, what message would you like to leave with our viewers? Any kind of final message?
I think we already talked about this, but if you see someone that needs help, run to them because you never know what you can do to help someone in need. And I'm just constantly grateful and thankful for all the people that ran to me that day. I mean, I've taught the people that I've talked to, we talk about how it feels like serendipity moments of their entire morning to get to that point in time during that event of crisis for them. But they saved my life, and I'm here to have this conversation because they ran towards me and they were willing to help someone. So I would say help someone in need when you see that they need a helping hand.
That's it. I can't ask for anything else. Anything else you want to say? That's a great way to end it, though.
Um, no, thanks for bringing me on the podcast.
You-
My first podcast experience.
and it's my second one, so I can't wait. I cannot wait to see you in October.
I know. I'm so excited for our event. It's going to be
Yeah.
great. If you're in the Boston area, come join us.
Oh my God, October 16th at local restaurant. It's gonna be fun.
5 p.m. See you
We'll have
there.
cup toast. Yes, we'll be there. Lauren, thank you so much. You're the best in the world, and I cannot wait to see you then.
Thanks, Greg. I loved our conversation.
Yeah, it was really terrific. Thanks.
All right. Bye.